Hi, my name is John Collins, and I'd like to talk a little bit about a new model view controller programming framework for JavaScript programming. What model view controller means is that your program is segmented into three parts. The key separation is there is a separation between your data and your program. Much more than just the mere separation of your data is in variables, and your program logic is in subroutines. Instead, your data is encapsulated inside of objects, and so your program, the key data in your program is accessed by the program logic in these objects by going through like a little protocol. There's a little bit of mechanism between you and the actual values of your data in the objects. It's transparent to you. Ideally, it doesn't get in your way. But it gets everything done that you want to get done, that you'd expect and you'd hope to get done. It's a wonderful technique that was invented in the 1970s, actually. Hasn't gotten used as much as you would expect, but it has always been around. Now, what happens inside of the MVC implementation of AngularJS is that not only can you just change this data automatically, but it will also show up when you change it on the display right away. Even that, MVC has done a lot before, but it goes further than that. You can simply refer to multiple pieces of your data in an expression, just like an expression that you would put somewhere in your program and it would get evaluated with the current values of those variables at the time. What will happen in model view controllers, the model view controller implementation of AngularJS, is you can put that expression in the HTML part of your web page itself. Just stick it in there inside of double curly braces, and whenever not just when the page first displays, but whenever the values of any variables referred to in that expression that you've just stuffed in that HTML, whenever any of those variables change their value, guess what? The whole expression gets recalculated and redisplayed. That expression could be numbers. It could be a mathematical expression. It could be strings. It could be something else. It could be some formatted, more structured data, a date or something. But the key thing to look at is that it frees you from doing a lot of work. You don't have to write an event handler to get this to happen. For decades, that's what programmers had to do. You had to write some low-level, tedious, mechanical, somewhat complicated, maybe widely scattered through your program pieces of logic to make this happen. And with AngularJS, it just happens. So it's a very powerful technique that you should probably consider. So the model, as you're gathering, is the core data of your program. It's the data that your program is going to need to have interacting in the user interface. It's probably, if you have business objects, that's probably going to be in there. Of course, business object data does end up at some point showing up in a user interface. At least, that's a pretty normal case, because there's kind of basic rule of computers. There's not much point in putting data in that you never want to have come out or get used in something that comes out. Because then it really doesn't have a point. There's not a point in putting it in there in the first place. You're either using it in some computations or pieces of, something that other data depends on, and that other data is ultimately pulled out. Some programs just put data in, maybe do some computations and store them on the disk, but eventually some program is going to bring them out. And so this is a very useful technique. Now, anyway, so there's the model, which encapsulates the important data and provides this ability to put things on the screen and keep them up to date on the screen. By the way, this not only applies to data that's displayed on the screen as read-only, but this applies to data that's editable data that is inside of a field, inside of a text input field, data that is controlling a checkbox which will be displayed as a check mark or not. It applies to things in drop-down lists because it's not only a simple piece of data. It's not just a number or just a string. It can be a list of data items. So it provides for all of that. Now, but in addition to the model, you also have the view. Okay, the view is the display. The view is not the data of the program. It's not the model. The view is a depiction of or holds depictions of the data on the screen, on the in a window or dialog box, whatever. And the view is going to have this is where you're basically essentially sticking in those expressions I told you about in the double curly braces in there, mixed in with your HTML. The stuff in the angular brackets, yeah. Inside of your greater than less than signs, you've got your HTML tags and stuff. This is just one more thing that you can stick in there. These expressions that refer to your model objects, your model values, go into the view. Your view is going to have the controls, of course. We're talking about HTML usually. It could be SVG. I've written a Hangman program using a mixture of HTML5 and CSS3. And SVG is used to render the Hangman himself, the stick figure, the scaffolding, the platform for the gallows, and the little rope that comes down. So and I utilized Angular. I was able to utilize AngularJS very easily, very naturally to control. So the different segments of the Hangman would be drawn as you guessed your letters wrong, progressively. Starting with the head, and then the body, and then the arms, and then the legs. So it's a very powerful technology. They didn't implement it in a way that is makes a lot of assumptions. This is not going to straitjacket your programming, and it's not going to make you scratch your head for a long time before you can figure out how to get it to do something. If you know HTML and you don't even have to know much CSS really, but if you know CSS, of course, it's going to let you embellish the page a lot more. So it's really, if you know it, you're going to be able to really do some nice stuff, because not only are you going to be able to put together an HTML page that looks pretty good, which you can already do, but you can do one that's interactive, that has text fields that you have to do very little work to get to capture data and allow the data to edit. It converts automatically between internal formats that your program is using and the display format that shows up on the screen. That's all handled automatically. You don't have to call conversion routines and stuff like that. So you're not having to do conversions. You're not having to program event handlers. It does what you want to do. You write the stuff the way you would like to be able to write it, doing the minimum amount of work possible, and it handles making things display. So for all the normal cases of things you want to do that are natural, the commonplace things, it's going to do the job. It does all the tedious work for you. The complex stuff, the stuff that the user expects to have happen automatically. But as you learn to program, you realize you had to do a lot of work, and you had to do very kind of tedious work, and it was very technical and maybe a little boring and a little complicated, and offered opportunities all over the place to make little mistakes. It's that's the normal way, but that's the normal way for the programmer. And what Angular does is it makes the programming easy, so that not only does the user get what they expect, reliably, in a natural way, without having to do a lot of tedious stuff. The programmer now finally gets what he wants to do and what he wants to see have happen kind of automatically in a natural sort of way. It's consistent, it's a really great thing. It's freeing on one hand, but it's also so it really frees you to do a lot, and it sort of unshackles you. You're not tied into doing a lot of work, a lot of overhead stuff anymore. Now, and then your controller is actually inside of the program, inside of JavaScript part of your web page, which would be normally in a separate file, a .js file. In there, you declare your controller, and actually the controller it'll be a JavaScript function with a certain sort of declaration, certain signature, and it will contain the data inside of it. So the controller is the thing that encapsulates and holds the data, and the data itself, the model, is variables, variable declarations in your inside of your controller, and your controller is a function, and that's the gist of that's how it works. It's very nice technology, and you really should examine it. I think you will find it, whether you're sort of a beginner programmer who does know JavaScript and does know HTML, or you're a very experienced person, especially a web developer. If you're an experienced web developer and you're familiar with object-oriented programming, and you know JavaScript, you know HTML, you know CSS, maybe even some other technologies, web technologies, document technologies and stuff, you will just do great at this. You'll find it easy to do. You will find it fun. You'll find it very fun to do. It'll be a very refreshing relief from what you're used to and what you thought you'd always have to do, and the way that you thought people would always be doing it, and that everyone was doing it and was the way to do it. This is a very nice technology. Google sponsors AngularJS, and they've done a great job. The programmers behind it have done a terrific job, and they all really deserve to be commended. So the best way to start giving them credit for what they've done is take a look at what they've done. And that's AngularJS.org on the web. So if you go to the AngularJS.org website, I think you'll be very pleased with what it is, and hey, you might want to say on the web, on the social websites or whatever that you use, or in an email to Google or something, hey, this is really neat, and if you're excited about it, tell them, let them know, and maybe the people that are supporting them will be pleased to hear that, and that's when you're a developer, that's always great to hear. Okay, well, have a great day, and if you create something, go ahead and share it. Thanks.